Bears quarterback Caleb Williams sets goals for the 2025 season. ESPN could be acquiring the rights of NFL Network and Red Zone for $2 billion. And Bucs defensive tackle Desmond Watson, the NFL heaviest player of all time at 450 pounds, is barred from practice. All that and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. We're back for Total Football Talk, episode 94. And you know the drill. I've got to welcome in one special guest host with myself. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ryan McCarthy.
Woo!
Welcome back,
episode 94. Are you ready to rock Helsinki?
The latest and greatest hits from the past, present, and future.
Oh, without hair.
Without hair. Yes. I'm trying to grow you out of set, my man. I'm trying here.
I can best I can do is a skullet. R.I.P. Hulk Hogan.
Yes, this week has been a really weird week between him, Ozzy. I forget the name, but the jazz player.
Malcolm Jamal Warner.
The drowning.
And Chuck Mangione.
That's the name. Yes, the jazz player. So with Malcolm Jamal Warner, it was weird because at first they were saying his daughter was out there drowning. And then the story changed to where at first they were saving the daughter first and they couldn't get him. And it's just a really, really sad case. You know, him at 54 years old. Definitely, it's just been a wild week overall between that, Ozzy, Hulk Hogan with the mixed reactions that we've seen on the internet. I want to say before we get started with this show that say what you want about the man Terry Bollea, but when it comes to the man Hulk Hogan, wrestling would not be what it is without Hulk Hogan and what he's done for the sports of entertainment of professional wrestling. If it wasn't for Hulkamania, we wouldn't be seeing what we're seeing today.
Precisely. That's what, and we got an episode of No Credentials Required. It's going to drop tomorrow. Ding. And we're going to talk all about it. I actually just posted a clip on YouTube on our YouTube channel, the No Credentials Required YouTube channel, which is a preview of this week's episode. And we do a tribute to Hulk Hogan, and Dustin and I talk about it. You can catch it after the show.
Nice. Yeah, definitely will go back and check that out because, I mean, you know, I'm a fanatic for wrestling. And Corey, our resident helper over here with Sartoba Media, is doing a fantastic job with, you know, his show, The Grind, the wrestling podcast. And I look forward to that each and every week. I'm not just being a homer because of where it's at. He absolutely brings great talent to that production, and I look forward to it. And what he talks about, and I know he's going to have something to say about that, and not only that, but the backlash from the people and how people have kind of taken it political at the same time. But without all that being said, I want to save the platform for him to kind of touch base on that and for you guys to touch base on that with No Credentials Required. We do have a jam-packed show today. We got to recap CFL Week 7 with last week's games that we missed from, you know, Saturday through Sunday. Friday night through Sunday. And then we also have last night's game for Week 8, as well as the preview for the remaining Week 8s and some interesting topics, as I had said here at the beginning of the show. But if you guys are just tuning in, you're here for episode 94 of Total Football Talk as we are live on Sartoba Media, as well as No Credentials Required YouTube channel and Ryan's X platform as well. I'm still not happy with the name X, but hey, I've been saying this for
Twitter
2 years now.
We set the bird free 2 years ago. Okay. I still call it Twitter. I'm not going to call it the other thing.
I I'm trying, man. I'm trying. But with all that being said, we're going to go and take it into our first segment, and that is the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break.
Here at the opening drive, we had an interesting game, kind of a smash mouth blowout this past Friday night as the Calgary Stampeders mollywopped the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 41-20. Vernon Adams Jr. 16-24 for 267 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Dedrick Mills 13 carries for 70 yards on the ground and 1 reception for 15 yards in the air. The MVP again for this offense for multiple weeks in a row. Damian Alford has 2 touchdowns receiving on 2 receptions for 79 yards. An absolute stud for this offense. Dominique Rhymes adds 4 receptions for 49 yards as well and a touchdown, hauling in all 3 touchdowns from Vernon Adams Jr. between those 2 receivers. Stampeders' time of possession, 30 minutes and 16 seconds, literally just a little over half of the amount of time for the game. Stampeders defense, 3 sacks, 4 interceptions by Green, Johnson, Grant, and Damian Webb, who has multiple weeks of interceptions as well. Rene Paredes taps in 2 field goals on 2 attempts, combining for 11 points. On the other side for the Blue Bombers, Chris Strevler, 16-25 for 136 passing yards, a touchdown and 2 interceptions, along with 7 carries for 29 rushing yards. Zach Collaros, 8 of 11 for 151 passing yards, a touchdown and 2 interceptions between both quarterbacks, combining for 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions on the day. Brady Oliveira, 15 carries for 68 rushing yards and 5 receptions for 40 receiving yards, combining for over 100 total all-purpose yards for the day. Nick Dembski, 7 receptions for 146 receiving yards, a touchdown, along with Cody Case's 2 receptions for 10 yards and a touchdown, round out the receiving core on this day for that team. But the Blue Bombers total penalties, 7 for 83 yards on the day, Ryan. Looking back on this, with the amount of penalties the Blue Bombers had and the turnovers that they had, what else contributed to their downfall in this game?
Part of it was limiting the rushing attack by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I mean, that's you could argue that's one of the cases. Brady Oliveira did not have a stellar game against the Calgary Stampeders. I think the Collaros injury had a lot to do with that victory because Zach Collaros has an injury history. We saw what happened to him in the Grey Cup when he suffered that finger injury. He wasn't the same quarterback that he was. And again, he goes out with a head injury in this game. And when we see Chris Strevler come in, and Chris Strevler, you usually see him in short yardage situations. And he's not the same kind of quarterback that Collaros is, and that Collaros has a better arm. He's got better vision on the field, and Collaros has the better of the 2 arms. And Strevler doesn't have the arm strength that he does, so he can't put in a tight window like Collaros does. He's primarily in short yardage situations, or when there's a call to have a run. So there's definitely a difference between these two quarterbacks. And when I saw Collaros go down, I said, "Nope, game over." I mean, he threw 2 interceptions before his injury. Actually, the injury he suffered, that was the second interception he had in the game. So Strevler comes in, he does his best, but he's much better in short yard situations or a running situation than as a pocket passer. And it was evident in this game. As for Calgary, they continued their momentum. We'll talk about last night's game notwithstanding. This team is kicking butt right now. Vernon Adams is contributing with 3 touchdowns. Damian Alford, number 1 pick in this year's CFL draft, has 2 more touchdowns. The Moose Alford. He has 2 more touchdowns, and Dominique Rhymes contributed 1. And Dedrick Mills is showing up with the running yards. He's one of the top leading rushers in this game, or in this league. But it's about the Stampeders defense. There's a reason why they're the top ranked defense for a reason, and it showed in this particular game last Friday night. 3 sacks, 4 interceptions. How many turnovers total did they have? Well, Winnipeg gave away the ball 6 times altogether. 4 turnovers, all those interceptions, and two giveaways on downs. So they had 6 turnovers altogether in this game, and they weren't very and Winnipeg wasn't very efficient on second down. They're usually a better team on second down. They were 10 for 23 in this game, and Calgary was 12 for 19. So that second down efficiency, excuse me, because I forgot there's 3 downs in Canadian football, not four, Ryan. 61% on second down is actually really good in this league. So the offense was efficient for Calgary. The defense was helping out, contributing with those 4 interceptions and 2 turnovers on downs. So this was just a butt kicking simply. And we talked about how Calgary kicked Winnipeg's butt 2 weeks ago, but prior in the Stampede Bowl. And it's continued the momentum going in this game all the way into this game. They beat Saskatchewan the week before. They just kept the momentum going. And we'll talk about Thursday's game in just a moment when they in that game. But this game, it takes one injury. Just takes one injury for the game to flip on its head, and that's what it did. And Calgary, just after that injury by Kolaros, they just rolled.
It rolled right over them like a bunch of dumpster pelicans. That's exactly what it looked like out there when they lost their quarterback. I mean, Kolaros, in Strevler, the combination between the two, you have your backup come in, throws 2 interceptions just like you did, relatively around the same amount of passing yards, still moving the ball. But when it gets to the important moments, it's like, and, when your starter goes down, you can only do but so much. So looking at it for what it is, it's amazing they kind of were still within 20 points or 21 points, regardless of the fact when you lose your starter, because there's a lot of teams, NFL, CFL, UFL, whatever, level it is, the offense is built around the quarterback. Regardless of what anybody wants to tell you, there might be some where it's built around the running back, but very rarely. Usually it's built around the quarterback because that is the one who, is the most important position of the offense. I mean, people argue it no matter which way, because each person out here, when it comes to fans or media, they have their own preference. But the general consensus is going to tell you, the most important position you cannot afford to lose your starter at is quarterback, because that person knows the offense in and out, can change the plays, the line, audible. Yes, your backup has the privilege to do that too, but you're limited because the amount of reps that you get throughout the year, you're not going to be as seasoned and as fresh within that as your starter. So big time loss for them when their starter went down. And hopefully the Blue Bombers can get it back on track. But the Stampeders, at least in this game, were absolutely rolling throughout and can be a tough team to face throughout the remainder of this season. And now it's time to talk about the team known as the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, as these Rough Riders absolutely beat down, not as bad as the last game, but they still beat down the BC Lions 33-27. Trevor Harris, 23 of 30 for 395 passing yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. AJ Olette, a little bit better statistics than last week, 15 carries for 72 rushing yards, 3 receptions for 12 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Dante Myers, the MVP of this offense in this game, though, 7 receptions, 132 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. Samuel Emilis, 2 receptions for 78 yards. The defense for this team, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery, and an interception by Marcus Sales. The total penalties for the Rough Riders, however, 6 for 67 yards, leading the game. And had they had just 1 or 2 more, it could have cost them this game, to be honest. Brett Lowther, 4 of 4 on field goals for the day for 15 total points. Nathan Rourke on the other side for the BC Lions, 27 of 41, 337 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. 1 carry on the day for 13 yards rounds out his total numbers. Now, James Butler, the running back for this team, absolutely fell flat on his face when it came to rushing. There's a little bit more in store for that when we break it down. He did have 9 carries for 30 rushing yards on the day, 5 receptions for 35 receiving yards as well. Aiden Eberhardt, 6 receptions for 105 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns on the day, along with Stanley Berryhill III's 6 receptions for 59 receiving yards and a touchdown. The Lions defense had an interception by Ronald Kent Jr., but their total penalties were 4 for 35 yards. Not as bad as the winning team, but still not great because they still had 4 penalties. Sean White, 1 of 1 for field goals on the day for a total of 4 points. Looking back at this game there, Ryan, what are your overall thoughts when looking at the Saskatchewan Rough Riders getting this win on this day?
Yeah, the final score does not indicate the actual performance on the field by both teams, particularly Saskatchewan. They were a much better team this past week. They got it running. They got the ball rolling, literally and figuratively with their run game, because remember the week before they were held to 16 yards rushing by Calgary. But
yeah, it was bad.
Game, it was bad. It was bad O-line, and I gave the Saskatchewan Rough Riders O-line the snowflake of the week because they couldn't do anything substantial in that game. But much better job this week. They must have hurt us. It must have hurt me because they accepted the challenge in this game, and much better job this week, surrendering only 1 sack. They rushed for 111 yards as a team. And Trevor Harris had 395 yards passing and on 23 of 30 passing, which is pretty outstanding. Very efficient and very accurate. Willett got going with 72 yards. He also contributed with a touchdown reception. But the story of this game was Dante Myers. Spoiler alert, you might see him a little bit later in the Grand Champ of the Week for one of us. Just saying. 7 receptions, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Man, he's between him and Samuel MLS, who contributed with 78 yards. Those 2 guys, I was a little bit worried when Joe took his talents to Indianapolis because he's currently at Colts camp right now. But I thought, Trevor Harris needs a wide receiver too, because MLS is wide receiver 1, but he needs a wide receiver 2. And Dante Myers has stepped it up. He stepped it up in this game, certainly, with an outstanding performance of his own. But defense did better. 1 sack, only 1 sack on Nathan Rourke, but 1 interception. I mean, compared to the game 4 weeks ago that these 2 teams had, where Saskatchewan just took over in the second half and just absolutely just kept it rolling after that pick 6 to end the first half. This was just a better game all around, all game long. They were efficient on third down. They got the running game going again, which is what you want to see, especially if you're Corey Mace. They kept the penalties down, only 6 penalties in this game. But on the flip side of the ball, unlike 4 weeks ago when we saw James Butler have an outstanding match, only 30 yards rushing in this game, and he had over 100 yards in that game a few weeks ago against the Rough Riders. If I find the stats correctly, he ran for 123 yards and a touchdown 4 weeks ago. But in this game, he was held in check, and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders got back on the defensive side, proving once again that they're the best team. They're one of the best teams to stop the run in this league, because in this league and also in this division, because we got a bunch of stud running backs in this division, in the West Division. Willette, Butler, Mills, Oliveira, Rankin in Edmonton, and you got to be predicated on stopping the run. That's what the Rough Riders did in this game, which helped contribute to the win. Yeah, they forced, but stopping the run made the Lions go to more passing attempts. You saw the 41 passing attempts by Nathan Rourke and had 27 completions and 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, but they also turned the ball over too. They turned the ball over twice in this game, interception and a fumble. So it was I guess you could say a return to form for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and currently they're just I think they're, let's see, what's the standings here. With Calgary's loss last night, we'll talk about them. They currently are in first place in the West Division, on technicality that they have a better record, only 1 loss compared to 2 for Calgary. So, but yeah, I think you could safely say this was a return to form for the Rough Riders.
It absolutely was, and they needed it because the previous week they did not look good. And, you absolutely laid the smackdown on them in the Snowflake of the Week for that, and deservingly so. I mean, I might have attempted, but mine would not have been as impactful as yours because you're not a homer for the team as I am. So with that being said, everything you said was true. Hopefully they listen to you. If not, they got some type of spark of motivation because they absolutely looked like a different team, the team that we had seen the start of the year and not the team that we had seen last week. So it kind of goes to show that sometimes when you go on a bye week, it kind of slows down your momentum a little bit. And that's what I feel like we witnessed with them going on that bye week and coming back and then seeing the results that we did last week. So shout out to the Rough Riders for getting it done. And shout out to those of you who are watching this live as we continue on with the opening drive. And now we got to take it into a game that hopefully somebody from that team might just be watching at some point, whether it's live or in the replay. Shout out to that man because we got plenty of things. Yeah. Yes, we got plenty of things to say about what he was able to accomplish in this game. And the game that we're talking about is the Sunday game between the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Ottawa Red Blacks. Bo Levi Mitchell just needed 30. What was it? He needed 293 passing yards to get into 10th all time on the passer list. And he did that. And he went 34 yards over that by getting 327 passing yards, 21 completions on 33 attempts. Had a passing touchdown and an interception as well. Johnny Augustine, 18 carries for 85 yards on the day, 1 reception for 8 yards as well. Tim White, 8 receptions for 89 yards, along with Kenny Lawler's 3 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. The Tiger Cats defense, 1 sack and 3 interceptions, 2 by Destin Talbert and 1 by Stavros Katsantonis. Hopefully I did not butcher that, but I tried.
Great job.
Thank you. Yes. I've been practicing. I practiced in the mirror. I did the best I could, and I made it happen. Shout out to Stavros for a cool ass name. Now back to the Tiger Cats. The penalties: 7 for 75 yards. It's tough. It's tough to have that many penalty yards, but you still found a way to win the game because of the leadership that you have, and we'll get more into that here in a bit. Now, Mark Lehio Maehio, 3 field goals out of 3 attempts for 12 points on the day. Now, on the other side, the Ottawa Red Blacks looking like a bunch of dumpster Pelicans beaten into the ground, 16-22 on the day for Dustin Crum with 149 passing yards and an interception. 6 carries for 43 yards as well, but just not good enough. Daniel Adebabwe, 4 carries for 54 yards, 3 receptions for 20 yards as well. Khalil Pimpleton, 5 receptions for 56 yards, and Andre Miller's 4 receptions for 49 yards was just not enough to help this dumpster Pelican team get over the hump, being the Red Blacks. Their defense, 2 sacks and an interception by Adarius Pickett, and their penalties, 5 for 40 yards on the day. But Ryan, the number we got to look at is the fact that their red zone, they were 0 for 3 out of attempts in the red zone. And you guys know, my math might not be the greatest, but I can tell you that rounds up to be 0% for the day for red zone percentage. Looking back at this, what are your overall thoughts looking back on this game with the Tiger Cats and the Red Blacks?
I got a handful. And first of all, I want to give my congratulations to Bo Levi Mitchell for overtaking Tracy Ham with to reach the number 10 spot in all-time yards in the CFL. And he did so with the nice touchdown pass to Kenny the King Lawler, which, by the way, that combination has been lighting it up for the 4 wins in a row that the Hamilton Tiger Cats have put together. That combination has been outstanding, incredible, and you just got to watch it. Now, Kenny Lawler only had 3 receptions in this game, but he had a touchdown. It left room for everyone else in the receiver room to get theirs. Tim White, 8 receptions. So Bo Levi was spreading it out. 12 incompletions. Some of them drops, some of them just not caught balls. But he was given the options to spread it out. But here's the thing: Hamilton is starting to get their run game going with Johnny Augustine having a pretty solid game. Shout out to that Tiger Cats defense: 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and they forced 4 turnovers from the Ottawa Red Blacks. So, we talk about. I've been watching my friend of the show, my friend of No Credentials Required podcast, Mr. Rod Peterson, had a poll question today of who was the best team in the NFL or the CFL. He was also asking which team is real and which team is a mirage. And I noted in his chat that I said that the Hamilton Tiger Cats were a bit of a mirage because their 4 wins were against Montreal when they didn't have their starting quarterback, was against Toronto, who has a lot of problems, have a lot of problems right now. We'll touch up on them in a second, and the status of Chad Kelly, which there may be something going on with him. And 2 of their other wins have been against Ottawa. But here's the thing: against Ottawa, they did their job. Your job as a football team or in any sport is to beat the team in front of you. That's what Hamilton has done the last 4 weeks. Now, as for the Ottawa Red Blacks, there has to be a come to Jesus moment for their offense, and you can't let a blindside blitz. It was a corner blitz that Drew Brown got smacked. He got absolutely hit, and his helmet came off, and he had to come out of the game. And Deshaun Amos, who hit him, who is the linebacker for the Tiger Cats, he actually faces a maximum fine by the league for that hit. But in my opinion, it was clean. I know you can't do a helmet to helmet hit. It looked like, and he was called for targeting, which again, this is something I think all defensive players need to work on. You can't lead with the crown of your head. I was surprised that Amos wasn't disqualified because of the injury to Drew Brown. But what have we been saying the last couple of weeks, Drew, on this program with Ottawa and with any starting quarterback? That offense for the Red Blacks goes through Drew Brown. And when Dustin Crum comes in, things change because he's more of a running quarterback. He's not a great pocket passer. We saw with the interception he had. And this Red Blacks offense is just, they're literally 9th in the league in scoring. And it proved it because they can't seem to score a touchdown. They had 5 field goals. All points for the Red Blacks in this game came off the leg of their kicker, Lewis Ward. 5th. They all came from the leg of Lewis Ward. You can't, and when you're 0 for 3 in the red zone, I talked about this a couple weeks ago with the Montreal game. Montreal was 0 for 3, 1 for 4, 1 for 3 in the red zone. If you go 0 for in the red zone, you won't be able to. You can't win games with field goals unless your defense plays a lights out game, and their defense did not. Even though they had 2 sacks and Darius Pickett had an interception, their offense has to get it going. They have to get it going. They got to get the run game going. Hopefully, Drew Brown comes back next week. I think they're playing next week. Yeah, they have a bye week this week. So you better hope that Drew Brown comes back next week because you got Calgary, and they're going to be absolutely peeved after their loss last night, which we'll touch on next. But man, Ottawa is they're just on the stroll bus right now with their offense. Defense is doing all they can, but their offense has one of the worst lines in CFL. They can't get the run game going, although over 100 rushing pass yards, but they don't have a stud running back like all the teams in the West do. And that's going to be trouble. It's going to be trouble for them if they can't get their offensive line situation figured out. They can't keep Drew Brown upright. This team is in big trouble.
Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, they're not starting the year out well at all, but there is one person that I don't think they're going to appreciate you calling this an optical illusion, Ryan McCarthy, when it comes to the mirage of the Hamilton Tiger Kitties. And that person is the man that is on our thumbnail today, the man who saw our Instagram story. That is Bo Levi Mitchell and how he understands how to win games. Mm-hmm. And he said specifically after this game last week, he said, the season is still young, but the veteran quarterback is happy that the team has been able to turn things around after missing the postseason in both of his seasons under center for this team. He says, it's early, man. It's a long season. We're a third of the way through, and I feel like we put ourselves in position to control our destiny, he said on TSN radio. The past couple of years, that's something we haven't done. And this year, we're ahead of it. We understand how to win games, which is why Bo Levi Mitchell understands how to win mother-father games. He's got the background. He is a Grey Cup champion of the past. He is a legend of this league. He just moved into 10th all-time in the passer list. He is no scrub. So when Bo Levi speaks, I listen. I'm a leader. I'm a follower. He's a leader. Okay, of the message. I got to give a shout to him when he speaks. Everyone should listen, especially those fans of the CFL, because they are not playing around this year. The Tiger Cats want to change the perception that they are the joke of the league, because that's what they've been in recent years. And now the Red Blacks and others have followed suit into that, and the Tiger Cats have stepped above. You got to give them their credit where it's due. Oh,
absolutely I do. Absolutely I do. But when I said their mirage, it just seemed like they were, because they've beaten their 3 other East opponents, they haven't beaten a West opponent yet. They had a chance to do it this week against BC. So I want to see if 2 of the wins have come against Ottawa, and Ottawa's been terrible this year. Same with Toronto. Montreal is who they are, but again, that was a game without their starting quarterback, Davis Alexander. So I'm hoping for the best for them. I don't doubt Bo Levi's abilities. I never have, because this guy has been in this league for at least a good decade. And he's been arguably the best quarterback in the league since he's come in. And like you said, Grey Cup champ, has been in the Grey Cup a couple times. He took the Stampeders to 3 Grey Cups, if I'm not mistaken, and won 1. So I don't doubt him at all. But I want to see what Hamilton can do on the road against a Western opponent. I also want to see what they do against other teams. Again, we're only a third of the way through the season, like you said, in that quote from Bo Levi Mitchell. So if you're a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan, these are good days, but the long season. Let's see what happens from here.
Absolutely, and yes, he's been in this league over a decade. This is his 14th season. He's been in since 2012. And with what he's doing, again, he's a 2-time Grey Cup champion, both of those with the Stampeders. So it's a long way to go to get the Tiger Cats up to that level of where the Stampeders once were. But hey, when you could be a 2-time Grey Cup champion and the MVP of both of those games, his accolades, the list of them, when he speaks, we got to listen. So that's just that. But yes, definitely great points by you. Hopefully Bo Levi can keep this up. We'll see as we have 2/3 of a season left to go.
And I forgot he took him to 4 Grey Cups. My apologies. 4 Grey Cups.
4. And maybe we can see the Tire Kitties in a Grey Cup at some point. Whether they win or lose, it would be cool to see them actually make the Grey Cup. But with all that being said, we still have one more game to cover in this opening drive. Let's take it on into that. And for this, we have to go back to last night's game, the Thursday night game between the Montreal Alouettes and the Calgary Stampeders. Alouettes get this win on the road, a very close one until the end. As Ryan says, the law offices of McLeod, Bethel Thompson, 30 of 40 for 280 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception, along with 1 carry for 3 yards on the night as well. Sean Thomas Erlington, 12 carries for 41 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. He also had 1 reception for 15 yards. Tyler Sneed, 7 receptions for 103 receiving yards. And Kyle Spiker, 6 receptions for 45 receiving yards and a touchdown as well. The Alouettes' time of possession, 34 minutes and 7 seconds on the game. Alouettes' defense only mustered up 1 fumble recovery on the day, but they did enough to contain the other side's offense. Alouettes' total penalties, though, 7 for 75 yards. But their big stat line here that helped them out and was big at the end of this game, Jose Maltos Diaz, 5 completed field goals out of 5 attempts for 16 total points, contributing to this team's win on the day. Vernon Adams Jr., 15 of 25 for 193 yards and a passing touchdown, and 1 carry for 7 yards as well. The man was knocked out towards the end as P.J. Walker was 3 of 7 for 20 passing yards. Dedrick Mills added 14 carries for 78 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the night. Dominique Rhymes, 5 receptions for 89 receiving yards and a touchdown, along with Eric Brooks, 5 receptions for 66 receiving yards. The Stampeders defense had 1 sack and an interception by Adrian Green, making multiple games with Green having an interception. However, the big stat line that affected them, in my opinion, was the fact that the Stampeders had 11 penalties for 121 penalty yards. Looking back on this Thursday night game for Week 8, Ryan, what are your thoughts when looking back on this game?
This game, I watched the highlights. I didn't get a chance to watch the entire game, but I watched the highlights not once, but twice this morning. Well, once at the gym and once this morning during kind of downtime at work. This was a heavyweight fight between 2 great defenses. Alouettes have been built on they're we see what they can do on offense when Davis Alexander's in the game, but when you have to get the big stop, Montreal did that not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times.
Did it get the noise of my headset shaking?
Maybe. But yes, shout out Booker T. After Calgary scored their 3rd touchdown, the Alouettes stopped the Stampeders 5 times. The next 5 possessions, they allowed 0 points. And in that time, they forced a turnover. They forced a fumble by Uluwak, recovered by Sankey, which led to a field goal. So they got 3 points off a turnover. That's what you want to do when you're an offense. When you're a good team, when you're a very good team, you want to get points off turnovers. Then after that, in the next possession, came again another impactful injury. When they had Calgary pinned inside their own 15-yard line, and Vernon Adams III trying to make a play, instead of sliding, he decides to go to a Tagovailoa and dive head first, which leads to a head injury. That, in my opinion, flipped the entire game on its head. Between those two possessions in a row, the fumble and the injury to Adams, those two plays turned this entire game around. And those came at the end of the third quarter, because right after that, the next couple of possessions for the Stampeders, they had two and outs. Actually, they had the last three possessions of the game, they had 2 and outs. They rushed 3 times for 4 yards out of those possessions, and they were controlling this line of scrimmage at that point. They were controlling the line of scrimmage. They had Dedrick Mills run for 78 yards, had 2 touchdowns, and they had over 100 yards rushing. But when Montreal, the defense, had to come up with stops, they did it 5 times in a row. And PJ Walker, I mean, we saw what he could do with the NFL. We saw what he did in the XFL with the Houston Roughnecks in 2000, which led to him getting an NFL contract and earning some playing time in the NFL. I think this was growing pains for him. He did not have a great game coming in relief of Vernon Adams Jr. 3 of 7, 20 yards. And those incompletions that he threw on those final 3 drives, those were big contributors to the Calgary Stampeders' loss. And I got to give credit where credit's due also to McLeod Bethel-Thompson in the law offices. He was 0-2 in his starts for Davis Alexander. Like game in Hamilton, where he had a lousy game there, had an okay game against BC, but they couldn't get the win. But in this game, they got the win, 280 yards passing. His favorite receiver this day was Tyler Snead, and Cole Speaker had that excellent catch and run that led to the Alouettes' only touchdown. But Jose Maltos, man, that dude is a stud when it comes to the kicking game. And he came up with the biggest kick of the game when he needed to, 56-yard attempt. He could have made it from 65. That's how far that ball went. That was an impressive kick. And for the Alouettes to kind of grind out this win, yeah, as a fan, I'm very happy. I was very happy to wake up to the Alouettes win it, seeing that score line. The Alouettes win that game as a fan, admittedly. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy for McLeod Bethel-Thompson because he was panned in those two losses that the Alouettes have. Taking over for Davis Alexander, had a pretty solid game, and they can't get their run game going, which they need to do against basically the entire East Division needs to do that. But they had over 34 minutes of possession. You can win the time of possession battles, and turnover battle. They had 1 interception, which was very early in the game. I think it was on their first drive of the game. He's being forced out of the Bethel-Thompson was being forced out of the pocket and kind of tried to force a throw in there, and it got picked off by Adrian Green. But yeah, that injury, that fumble in the third quarter led to a field goal. That injury to Vernon Adams Jr., which led to PJ Walker coming in and a defense coming up with 5 stops in a row to win this game for the Alouettes. If you're an Alouettes fan this morning or this afternoon, or if you're watching this presentation, if Montreal Alouettes fan, you got to be feeling pretty good about that win last night.
However, it does affect the Tiger Cats, as that it kind of moves them firmly down to second place for right now, depending on what happens this weekend. But if they can pull out a 5th straight win, then they're still at the top of this leaderboard for the division. But for your fanhood, absolutely great, because again, you got to wake up this morning with a win for your team, and the law offices came through for you. They defended you very well, and you got this victory as a result. Before we go into our next part of the show, though, we do have some comments we want to acknowledge before we get too far in, so we can keep them rolling as well. Look out, everybody. It's about to get wild and crazy. Gridiron wild and crazy. Welcome to Total Football Talk.
Indeed.
With that last outburst that Ryan McCarthy has boosted his popularity in Finland.
Awesome. Love me some Finns.
And apparently Malcolm Jamal Warner was caught up in a riptide. So
Yeah.
it was,
Riptides, you want to let it carry you out so you can swim back in. That's why I know from my times in the Outer Banks when they tell you if you get caught in a riptide, don't try to swim against it. Just let it carry you out, and you can swim back to shore. Just make sure you're not in the current.
You're gonna wear yourself out.
Yeah.
So definitely you gotta be careful out there when it comes to the ocean.
Yep.
And Corey, our guy, is here. Says, what's good, fam?
Hey.
What's good with you there, sir? Looking forward to another great production. Episode 40 is tomorrow for the grind. He has been absolutely grinding and rocking and rolling with it and has been throwing some great content out there. Between that and the shorts, absolutely crushing it for Sartoba, and I greatly appreciate you again, as always, brother. Looking forward to another great show tomorrow. With that being said, keep those comments rolling here in the live chat. We got much more in store for you. We got the Grand Champ, the Gridiron Scoop, the Snowflake of the Week, and much more after this first commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on two. Ready? Quick.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kurt the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and where you can find podcasts.
Drew, I'm hearing a bunch of stuff in your mind. I know you know this team very well. Are you in and out, my friend?
This team, as a fan for the past, 18 months, it has been terrible.
As an analyst.
As an analyst, going through the experience as an analyst and also as a closet fan of the Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins. It is a travesty. I am out.
Get the fuck out of here!
I believe that they will not make the playoffs this year. Come on, they are 2-6. I don't care how much of a fan I am. I don't care how much of a Pats fan I am to have a half sleeve dedicated to them. It doesn't matter. They S-U-C-K.
Hey, what's good, everybody? This your boy Corey, host of The Grind, where we talk about all things WWE. You can catch The Grind every single Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on Sartoba Media. If you're not following Sartoba Media, then what are you doing? Like, share, subscribe. There are many different things that we have available on Sartoba Media for your viewing pleasure. And what else you got to do on a Saturday afternoon? Come spend some time with me. Come spend some time with my colleagues on this platform. Help us be able to bring everything that you all want to see. Matter of fact, you know what? If you ain't did it yet, I got something for you. Stay true to what you do. Stay true to why you do. And always stay true to you.
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
It's time for the Grand Champ of the Week, where we pick our dough. Let's start it out with Mr. McCarthy's pick for the Grand Champ of the Week.
My Grand Champ of the Week is from Drew Willingham's Saskatchewan Rough Riders. And that is wide receiver Dante Myers. Dante Myers, 7 receptions, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Longest reception was 50 yards. I believe that was hauled in for a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. And again, he's becoming one of the new primary weapons for a new weapon for Trevor Harris to throw to. I mentioned in our segment when we talked about that game against the Lions that Samuel Emilus is wide receiver 1 and Dante Myers is quickly becoming wide receiver 2 and becoming a dependable weapon for Trevor Harris and the Saskatchewan Roughriders offense. And for years, the Roughriders have been known as a running team, kind of a grinding out doing things to grind out the clock and low scoring games, and their defense helps out with the contributing to low scoring games. You don't typically see them score 33 points in a game or 40 scoring in the 40s, but with Trevor Harris as your quarterback, AJ Willett in the backfield, and now not one but two big weapons for Trevor Harris to throw to in Emilus and especially Dante Myers, my Grand Champ of the Week. The Saskatchewan Roughriders team, this team could you could be seeing them go deep into the postseason and get that coveted week off, that bye for the division final. You could see them in the Grey Cup in November. So, but Dante Myers, heck of a performance this week. He's my Grand Champ this week.
And that's a great pick because had you not made that pick, that's more likely who I was going to go with. So definitely great choice. And it saves me from too many homerisms here in the Grand Champ of the Week. With that being said, it is now time for my choice for the Grand Champ of the Week. And I may be having a favorite quarterback of the league now that I'm slowly becoming a homer for. But because he made it to the 10th all-time on the passer list and did what he did in this game to help lead this team to its 4th straight victory, I got to give it to Bo Levi Mitchell. 21 of 33 out of completions out of attempts, 327 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. He did have an interception, but it doesn't matter because you still led this team to a victory by more than 2 touchdowns. So with that being said, shout out to Bo Levi Mitchell for not only these stats, but for moving into 10th all-time on the passer list in this game. And he did so with the victory. So shout out to him. And that is why he is my choice for the Grand Champ of the Week.
Solid pick. I mean, the guy's been a dog for this league for over a decade. And we talked about, and we were glowingly talking about him in our last segment, or a couple segments ago, in regards to the win over the Ottawa Red Blacks. And he's been the guy who's trying to put the Tiger Cats over the top. But again, congratulations on achieving 10th all time on the passing yards list in the NFL in the CFL.
And he did indeed. With that being said, it's now time. Take it into the Gridiron Scoop. With the Gridiron Scoop, we're going to take it into some NFL news for a little bit, like you were doing. Yeah, I had to add it in a little bit there. You're rocking it, rolling with click, click, click. And I'm going to, you know what? During the next commercial break, I'm going to bring out a camera from like the 1930s. I'm serious. I am. Hey. I inherited it. But with that being said, we're going to take it into the Chicago Bears in their quarterback situation. In Caleb Williams, who sets goals for the 2025 NFL season with 4,000 passing yards and 70% completion rating. Do you believe he will be able to meet these goals, or will he come up just short?
So looking at last year's stats in terms of who led the league in passing completion percentage, there were for regular starters, there were 5 starters last year with completion percentage over 70%. Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith. All the others who had more than plus 70% completion rate didn't start regularly. Caleb Williams, we saw him have some growing pains last year. We know what he can do on the field. We saw it at USC. Didn't see it a whole lot last year with the Bears. But it's going to be very important for Ben Johnson to unlock those skills, those goals that he has, that Caleb Williams has put on himself. He wants to. And by the way, Drew, trivia question for you.
Set.
How many 4,000-yard passers have the Chicago Bears had in their history?
Jay Cutler, did he get 4,000?
I want to say yes.
I know Jim Harbaugh didn't.
No. Neither did Jim McMahon. Neither did sexy Rexy Grossman.
I would say, the only person I could possibly think of to maybe do it would be Jay Cutler, but I doubt that. I'm going to say 0.
They have had none.
Yeah, I was right. Yeah,
Jay Cutler came close once, but they've never had a 4,000-yard 4,000-yard passer. So Caleb Williams would be the first.
Yes, I guessed it right.
But again, it's all going to depend on a few things. It's going to depend on how he establishes a relationship with his receivers. He's got DJ Moore, which is his wide receiver 1. If I'm not mistaken, did they bring in from the Chargers? I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. Let me just take a look at the depth chart right now.
We still got Roma Dunze too.
They got Roma Dunze. They got Cole Kmet.
Olamide Zacchaeus.
Yep.
DJ Moore.
Yeah. He's also got DeAndre Swift to throw to as a running back out of the pass catching running back. Good Lord, I can't talk. I'm tired.
They also brought in Luther Burden III. I mean, they've got weapons over there.
Yeah, they've got guys that Ben Johnson wants on his team because they want to try to establish an identity similar. He wants to try to establish an identity similar to what he did with Dan Campbell in Detroit. I personally think the New York Jets will do it better. That's just me. trying not to be a homer myself, but getting back to the Bears again, it's going to depend on if he can establish a relationship with his pass catchers in training camp, and if the Bears can protect them. They got a couple of guys they shored up the offensive line from last year. They brought in Joe Tooney. They're going to move him back into the interior because he's better in the interior than he is at tackle. And it's just going to be how he, and also the relationship he's going to have to form with Ben Johnson, because Ben Johnson had 2 very successful years in Detroit as the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Let's see what he does as head coach. Can he try to work on Caleb's mistakes? Can they protect him? Can they be an efficient offense like they were in Detroit? That remains to be seen. As far as I think he'll achieve 4,000 passing yards. I don't think he'll get the 70% completion rate, because you're going to have to rely on very short, very death by 1,000 paper cuts, very short passes, like dink and dunk. And I don't think that's Caleb Williams' styles. I know he likes to spread it out and run it and try to throw deep. But 4,000 yards, yes. 70% completion rate, no.
Yeah, I don't think he'd get 70% completion rate. And considering the fact that no Chicago Bear has gotten 4,000 passing yards yet, and you've got a new head coach, could this potentially happen at some point? Yes. I don't think it's going to happen in year 2 for him. And unless he's spent less time in the nail salon this offseason and more time studying that playbook, because we already know Fingernail Man loves to paint the fingernails, okay? And if you don't spend as much time prepping for your craft as you do prepping for your hobbies, then you're not going to get the results in the field. I'm not feeling that confident about it. Definitely not 70% completion rate. We're on the same page, but I am going to disagree with you on the fact I don't think he's going to get 4,000 passing yards this year. So we'll have to see. I mean, by the end of the year, we'll be able to look back on this and say which one of us was right or wrong. But right now, at least we can agree on the fact that he does not get 70%.
Keep the receipts, folks, just in case.
Keep them. There it goes. I was trying to click the button. But the button didn't. Now,
StreamYard.
Now, with that being said, still within NFL, ESPN could be acquiring the rights of NFL Network and Red Zone for reported $2 billion. Will this move be beneficial for the fans, and will this potentially be more expensive for the consumers?
Will it be beneficial for the fans? No. Will it be more expensive for the consumers? Absolutely. Again, sneak preview. We talked about this on our latest recording of No Credentials Required. Ding! Be available tomorrow. This is not good for the consumer because for years, you needed to have DirecTV or you needed to have a cable subscription or streaming service upgrade for an extra $10. This is going to force the consumer to spend an extra $30 a month for ESPN's New Era app. Now, I don't know if this is replacing ESPN Plus or if it's an add-on from what ESPN Plus has, because you got to spend. I stopped my ESPN Plus subscription because of the way that they were increasing the price every year. It was originally $30, then it went to 40, then it went to 50. Now it's I think $70 a month or $75 a month for ESPN Plus, which is ridiculous because I don't watch that much sports. I only want to watch the sports that I want to watch. So for ESPN purchasing the rights to NFL Network and for Red Zone, we talk about how streaming is making it more expensive because everything's behind a paywall now. And this is no exception because you're going to fork over $30 a month to watch NFL Network and Red Zone when you can already fork over like $10 a month extra for extra sports tier on your streaming service. But sneak preview to our episode. I can see what ESPN's doing in that they're trying to get ahead. They're trying to stay with the times because late night is dying. With Stephen Colbert not returning because digital has surpassed legacy media in the comedy realm.
Well, I think part of that's politics too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. It's politics too. I have my feelings about it, but that's another podcast. but ESPN is trying to catch up they're trying to catch up with the times because everybody's going digital now. You have more access to everything on a laptop, a phone. You can stream from anywhere, and ESPN's trying to get in touch, just trying to keep up. And I think trying to buy NFL Network and Red Zone is just it's neither beneficial for the fans and it's just gonna be more expensive because it's one more thing that fans have to buy behind a paywall in order to watch what they want to watch. And it sucks.
And even if they do include it in ESPN Plus, it's still gonna jack the rate up. So I have still through Verizon because that's who I have for my phone. It's like a package where you get ESPN Plus, Disney, and Hulu. Yeah. But it's the one that you get like where you have like a bunch of ads.
Okay. So I looked it up. It's $11.99 a month on Hulu with ads or $119 a year, $120 a year, which is ridiculous. Totally wrong. My math is off.
So that would still break down to be there's no deal there because it's still like $11.99 a month.
Yeah.
Because usually when you buy the entire year, you get a deal. Like whether it's editing software that we use to do this or whatnot, it's more beneficial to buy the yearly subscription if you're going to be planning on using it for a year, right?
Right.
With that, you might as well just keep it at $11.99 a month and then just cancel it if you were going to do it. Sign up in September, have it for those next 4 months, and then you've got playoff football on the prime channels anyway, the primetime channels for the most part. So you cancel it after December or first week of January, whatever. but still, it's still a pain because that's what the problem is with all these subscriptions. You have all these different subscriptions to all these different platforms, and then you forget which ones you need to cut off at certain points, and you end up getting charged an extra month here, an extra 2 months there. It's a pain. So, yes, I'm with you that it's not going to be more beneficial for the fans, and it's going to be more expensive regardless.
Yeah. Remember about 10 years ago, people were cutting cable because it was easier to do streaming, and now streaming services. You purchase a number of them per month. Netflix, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Hulu. You're spending as much for streaming services as you are for a basic cable subscription.
Yep.
Even more. And now with this is going to be even more outrageous.
It's going to be interesting to see where this goes, but whether ESPN buys it or not, somebody's going to buy it. The next big bidder will come through. And we're going to see a change, maybe not for the 2025 season, but for 2026, I'm anticipating it. And our last topic here on the Gridiron Scoop, Buccaneers defensive tackle Desmond Watson, the NFL's heaviest player of all time at 450 pounds, is barred from practice. Do you believe he will be able to drop enough weight to make the 53-man roster to start the 2025 NFL season? Or will this circumstance hinder his availability for this team?
It's going to hinder his availability for this team, at least in season 1, because there's no way you're going to drop 100. You're not going to drop 100 pounds in a month in a matter of 6 weeks. That's dangerous. A, B, it's impossible unless you get on heavy doses of Ozempic or you sweat it all out. This is impossible. I think he's going to be at least for his first season. My prediction is because his first season he's going to be on the active / PU pup list because of his weight. And he was in college. He was in the 430 pounds in college. And I watched some of his highlights today from his time at the University of Florida playing nose tackle, and he could stuff the run. That's what you want.
He was drafted at 464 pounds. And he's only dropped 14 pounds since the draft.
Yeah, something's going on there. I don't know if it's they got to figure things out. Either look, I'm a guy. Look, I'll be transparent. I'm a guy who has used pharmaceuticals to drop weight. I don't do Ozempic. I don't do any of that. The semaglutides. That stuff is dangerous. But I've taken care of gotten my thyroid issues under control, and I've also gotten my insulin levels down. So this has got to be either he's undisciplined and he just eats a lot and he can't stop eating. And there's a psychological reason why he's getting that weight, or it could be physiological. And they have to look at his blood work to see, all right, what can we do to get you dropped down to 350 pounds? Because at 6'5" and 450 pounds, that's a big man right there. And I know that as a Jets fan, the Jets drafted Mekhi Becton. He showed up at camp overweight, and those issues did not help him in his rookie year. They did not help him in training camp in the next season. And he was considered a bust by the Jets, and he wound up being a free agent. And the Philadelphia Eagles picked him up in free agency. They would have put him. They moved him to interior. Now he's a Super Bowl champion and earned himself a nice contract with the Chargers in the offseason. So the weight can be managed. I just want to see how the Buccaneers manage it. Whether it's going to be just a diet is a diet issue, or if it's a physiological issue and he just needs to make some adjustments and he'll lose the weight.
Yeah, I just feel like now you've had 3 solid months to really work on this.
Right.
And to drop 14 pounds, I mean, dropping weight still a positive thing. I don't want to knock anybody for dropping weight. You and I, as bigger individuals, it's tough. To drop 5 pounds here, 10 pounds there. However, I feel like in 90 days, you should be able to drop more than 14 pounds if you were disciplined, and especially when you have all of the resources that you have as a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
What they have on site at their training facilities are light years beyond what like a Gold's Gym or a Planet Fitness or whatever gym you go to. The type of equipment, unless you're at FedEx Field, but you know, you know,
or one Jets drive for the time being.
Yes. So, you know, 30 out of the 32 teams, and maybe there's some that have a little bit questionable technology. We'll say at least 3/4 of the NFL has great resources to work with when it comes to strength and conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buccaneers, who are only like 4 or 5 years away from removed from a Super Bowl.
Yep.
They've got the technology in there, and you know that they made sure they had state-of-the-art facilities for Tom Brady to come in there when he did in 2020 because he wouldn't have showed up. So for that, I believe when you have the resources that you have and you being in your early 20s, with me being in my late 30s, you being where you are in age, it's not that easy to drop the weight as it would be for somebody in their early 20s. I remember my weight in my early 20s, I could fluctuate it back and forth. I could drop 20 pounds in a week easy because of how active I was. I was a bigger guy, but you stop drinking soda and you stop eating fast food and you drink just water throughout a 7-day period. You're active and you're eating right and you're outside. And this, I'm talking like summertime, like right now when you're, when you're sweating and moving around. This is the time, June, July, August, where you should be able to shed the pounds easier than any other month throughout the entire calendar year. This is your 25% of the year where you can drop the weight. And for you to be that young and to only be able to drop 14 pounds in 90 days, that's where somebody who is a bigger individual, calls BS on that. That yes, congratulations, you are positively in the right direction. But in my opinion, you should have been able to drop like at least 40 pounds, 40 to 50. And that's a safe bet if you were really out there grinding every single day and wanted this NFL dream. You should be closer to the low side of 400 and not in the middle of it. Yeah. I would have looked at this and said, if you were at like 415, 420 in weight, that's good. But for you to go from 464 pounds to just 450 and only drop 14 pounds in 90 days, I don't blame the Buccaneers for this decision. And you should sit him out for the entirety of the NFL season and have him be a true rookie next year.
Yep.
Such thing as shooting in the NFL for his health, his safety, and for the duration of his contract and his future with not only this organization, but for a career in professional football. He needs to sit out this year. He needs to grind and get down to like 350 minimum before you start putting him out in the field.
You got to be hungry enough, no pun intended, to want this. Got to do something about it and lose more than 14 pounds, friend.
And hopefully we will see that in the coming time. But with that being said,
rooting for you, Desmond.
Like Forrest, run, Desmond, run, as we take it on into the Snowflake of the Week. Here with the Snowflake of the Week, we give you our reviews on who was absolutely terrible within the past week. For that, we're going to start it on out with Mr. McCarthy's pick for the Snowflake of the Week.
All right, my Snowflake of the Week is the entire Ottawa Red Blacks offense. Look at these stats. They allowed their starting quarterback. They misread a blitz from the right side, from their right side, Hamilton's left side, and allowed their starting quarterback, who the offense goes through, to get knocked out of the game. 6 of 19 from second down, 4 turnovers, no touchdowns. You are the lowest scoring offense in the league. Total snowflake effort. And it's at home. It's at home. You should go to your home. Shout out Happy Gilmore. But if you're at home, you got to put up better numbers than this. You gotta put up better numbers in front of your home crowd because numbers like this tell your home fans that you don't care. You're not invested. You just don't seem to care. And from what I understand, the head coach's job is safe for now, but if the Ottawa Red Blacks offense continues like this, especially over the next couple of weeks, you got a week off. You got a bye week this week to figure it out. Because your next game is against Calgary. You got to figure it out soon because Calgary's they're no slouch, and they're going to be pissed off due to what happened on Thursday night. And it's not going to be fun, especially if you can't put up numbers. And you better pray that Drew Brown, his concussion issue, goes away because you need him from here on out. You got to protect him. You got to keep him upright because he's going to spread the ball around. They're going to need 400-plus yards to beat Calgary next week. You better hope that Drew Brown is back in your lineup because numbers like this will not win you another game this season.
And that was a great choice for the Snowflake of the Week when you look back on those stats that you threw out. Deservingly so for the Snowflake of the Week, and so much that I couldn't even go within the CFL for the Snowflake of the Week this week because I didn't want to steal away from the Thunder from that pick because that was absolutely great of a pick to have there, sir, for your pick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And for that, it's not many times I'll have a homer pick for the Snowflake of the Week, but this week I will because of the Washington Commanders and allowing Terry McLaurin to get frustrated over contract and hold out from training camp. This has been something that they should have locked up much sooner. Yes, they wanted to add some weapons during the offseason, like Von Miller, Deebo Samuel, and more to kind of help out, the pieces that they needed to get over the hump and potentially make a run at the Super Bowl this year. But you are not going to be able to do that without Terry McLaurin, who is your number one receiver. When we take a look at the top paid wide receivers here in the NFL, Terry McLaurin is the 17th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, and he's not even the highest paid wide receiver on the Commanders after trading for Deebo Samuel, who is the 15th highest paid, 2 spots above Terry McLaurin. Deebo has a contract that after this season is void just like Terry McLaurin's, but total average per year, he gets $23,850,000, which is about $650,000 more than what Terry McLaurin gets because he gets $23,200. Both of these receivers are in the last year of their deal, but the most important deal to lock up is Terry McLaurin, which without his contributions last year, that team would not have made it to the NFC Championship, let alone the playoffs. They would not have even made the playoffs, I don't believe, without Terry McLaurin. So,
facts.
Yes. And when you look at the receivers who are above him, there's only one other receiver who's in their age, who's in the 30s in ages, and that's Tyreek Hill, who's 31 years old, who still has this year and next year left on his contract with the Dolphins. Every other receiver is in their 20s, mid-20s to late 20s. And, of course, the Bengals were stupid with giving that amount of money to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, crippling their offense and what they're going to be able to do because you're not going to have much of an offensive line after this year to potentially next year, blocking for those receivers and Joe Burrow, which is why they struggle to win a game throughout the first month of the season. Back to the Washington Commanders here. This situation has pulled out for too long because if you have potentially you're in week 2 or week 3 of the preseason and you finally get the deal done, you're like a week or 2 away from the start of the regular season and he's had no reps, which puts him in a situation to potentially get injured, which puts your season in jeopardy because then you'd have to rely on somebody who's been injury-stricken and somebody who hasn't been consistent as they were in San Francisco, like Deebo Samuel. So with that being said, and with everything put together, when it comes to the Snowflake of the Week, I have to give it to the Washington Commanders because this has gone on for too long. We are 6 days away from August. We are 6 days away from seeing teams start their NFL preseason because On the 31st of July, we have our first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game between the Chargers and the Lions, and that's when things start going downhill really, really fast. Washington Commanders, you don't get this deal done this weekend. I'm going to go ahead and say it now. You don't get this deal done this weekend before NFL preseason starts next week. I'm going to sit here and say you're not even going to make the NFC Championship next year, let alone the playoffs, because you are not going to have the momentum. You are not going to have the chemistry with that offense that you need. Yes, JD and McLaurin have the chemistry, but you still have to have the chemistry with the 9 other individuals around you on offense. And this is going to be the first real blunder by this new Washington Commanders front office that we have seen since the new ownership took over a couple of years ago. They've done a fantastic job from start to present, except this right here. And that's why, for the first time in quite some time, the Washington Commanders are my choice for Snowflake of the Week.
Can't argue with that. The Jets just paid Garrett Wilson, gave him a 4-year extension.
And he doesn't even have the impact on that offense that McLaurin's had for the Commanders. And yes, McLaurin
not yet,
at least. Not yet. But in 2022, he did get an extension for $68 million, a 3-year, $68 million extension, but that runs out at the end of this year. He gets hurt this year. He has no guarantees. Let's say he has a career-ending injury. Nobody wants to see that, but we have to speak realistically. That's what his agent is doing right now for his fighting defense, and wants to have some guaranteed money, because you go out there on a contract year, you get hurt, you not only miss out on guaranteed money, but you might not even get the same type of contract offer that you would have got had you signed beforehand. And the Commanders need to also learn from another situation. You let it go too long, you're going to end up being like the Dallas Cowboys and overpay your talent. Like when you see situations like Dak Prescott and such from the past, pay us $60 million a year. So with that being said, this is why you're my choice for the Snowflake of the Week, because each and every day that passes, it hurts your chemistry within your offense, but it's also going to hurt your wallet at the end of the day, because the more time goes by, the more money you're going to spend potentially for the talent. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and take our last commercial break. And when we come back, we have the 2-minute drill and the post game before we wrap it on up. We'll see you guys here on the other side.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2-on-2-on-2. Ready? Ready.
Later, the post game. But coming up next, the 2-minute drill. This is Total Football Talk.
You know it, and I know it. Let's get ready for it. When that will happen, we don't know.
I'm telling you. I mean, look at the bottom of the graphic. Look at this man. Look at him. He's like a Dollar Tree Charlie Chaplin or something. Like, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D Willie in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, episode 94. We're back from our last commercial break with much more in store for you, myself, and Ryan McCarthy, back to bring you the action as we have to now take it into the games that we have on tap right here. And last night, we had the game between the Alouettes and the Stampeders that we already recapped. But now we got to take a look at the fact that we got the Edmonton Elks and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders tonight at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time on TSN. The Edmonton Elks, who are 1-4, and the Rough Riders, who are 5-1. Ryan, who do you think takes this game and why?
My picks were awful last week, so I'm going to go with this seems like it's an obvious choice, right? Saskatchewan's 5-1, Edmonton's 1-5. Edmonton can't seem to find an identity. And guess what? They're switching quarterbacks again. Cody Fajardo is starting this week for the Saskatchewan he played for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, but he's starting for the Edmonton Elks in lieu of Trey Ford. And man, poor Trey Ford. He's been in this league for 3 seasons, and he just can't seem to catch a break with whatever coaching staff he's got. But Saskatchewan, we've talked about them. They have weapons on offense. They can spread the ball around. Trevor Harris, if you keep him upright, he's going to do magical things. And he's got a growing list of weapons. He's got over almost 800 yards in the last 2 weeks alone.
Mm-hmm.
So he's putting up some crazy numbers. But their defense, they're getting healthy again. Roland Milligan Jr. and Tavon Campbell are in the back or in the secondary again. Tavon Campbell, I know, has been having some injury issues lately, but he's back in the lineup, and they always seem to make a difference for this team. What's interesting is that whenever a Saskatchewan Rough Rider comes back to Regina, sometimes they surprise and they show out in front of their former fans. And with Cody Fajardo being a Rough Rider for a couple seasons, he was the guy who was supposed to bring them a title in 2019 and into the 2020s. They basically ran him out of town. Wins a Grey Cup with Montreal. I think it's traded to Edmonton as kind of a veteran presence for Trey Ford. But man, Edmonton's got to make a decision about their future quarterback, and hopefully this gives a chance for Trey Ford to see things on the sideline. But at the same time, you're killing his development because you keep yanking him too early or you bench him. So you got to figure out what to do with him. But in this game, it's at Regina. Hopefully, there's no wildfire smoke anymore. Delayed the game to go and moved it to a Saturday afternoon. But no, I'm going to take the Rough Riders in this one. Not to kiss up to the host and the creator of the show, but just because they're the better team. They're clearly the better team in this game.
I was thinking about taking the upset here. I was earlier today, but then I had some vitamin water. I hope we can get a sponsorship within one point, at some point down the road. But hey, I had to mention it. I had some vitamin water, and instantly through this blue raspberry limeade Elevate drink, I elevated my thought to the right one. And I'm going with the Saskatchewan Rough Riders to win this game by at least double digits.
Drew, update. Air quality is good. So we'll show to play this game tonight.
Yes. It still doesn't change my selection. The Saskatchewan Rough Riders are going to win this mother-fathering game at home at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time. But unfortunately, I will be at work and will not be able to watch my Saskatchewan Rough Riders win the game.
You can listen, though.
No, because I'll probably be on a bridge call. But I can watch the highlights later.
Watch the highlights later. Yes. Or the full game. The full game will be on replay on CFL Plus, I think, tomorrow.
Non-football talk. I watched Happy Gilmore 2 this morning, and that just makes my day okay. So because I watched Happy Gilmore 2, I'm okay in accepting of the fact that I cannot watch my Saskatchewan Roughriders live. I'll have to watch the highlights. It'll be okay. I'll live. Happy Gilmore 2, by the way, amazing. Pulls on your heartstrings a little bit, but still a comedy. Go back and watch it when you get a chance on Netflix.
All right. We'll do.
Now it's time for the next game. We have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers tomorrow at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time on the road, traveling to Toronto to take on the Argonauts. The Blue Bombers, who are 3-2, and the Argonauts, who are a lowly 1-5, have their game in Toronto at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. Ryan, who do you think wins this game and why?
Well, Toronto has had 9 days to figure out what's going on, and I kind of alluded to it back in earlier in the show about Chad Kelly. I was watching our guy Rod Peterson this afternoon. He had Jim Barker, who is a legendary coach and GM in the CFL. He made a prediction that Chad Kelly's not going to play this year, which would be shocking because he was on the 6-game injured list. He should be good to come back. He's considered week to week, but we've seen no either hide nor hair of Chad Kelly on a sideline this year for the Toronto Argonauts, which concerns me because it's either one of two things. Either his ankle injury is not coming along as good as we think it is, or there's some tension between him and Coach Ryan Dinwiddie and the organization as a whole. My thought, just speculating out there. But they're 9 days off of one of the worst losses that I've seen in a CFL game in a very long time. They had an 18-point lead against the Montreal Alouettes late in the third quarter last Thursday night, and they blew it. Their defense blew it. Absolutely blew it. And they're going to play a Winnipeg Blue Bombers team that comes into town on a hot, steamy evening in Toronto. And this team is unhappy. That team got stomped. That team got beat up. That team just got absolutely put in the ground by the Calgary Stampeders at home. And they're usually unbeatable at home last week. So they've got a team that's 1-5 in front of them. Now, granted, last year, Toronto, they swept all 3 games they played, including the Grey Cup. This is a different Toronto Argonauts team. This is a team that they're on the struggle bus right now. And their 1 win against Ottawa could have been a loss if it wasn't for two spectacular plays by their defense. One on the fumble return, the other on a blocked field goal that was taken back for a long touchdown. They would have lost that game if they didn't have those 2 defensive touchdowns, or 1 special teams touchdown and the 1 defensive touchdown. So Winnipeg's playing a team that is kind of navel gazing right now in terms of football mentality. And that team, Winnipeg's going to be absolutely steaming mad over the way they got absolutely trounced last week. So the one thing I have concern for Winnipeg is they need to stop the big plays. And Toronto has been prone to get big plays. We saw it last week. We saw it last week against Montreal. Unfortunately, again, they blew it at the end because Montreal's defense stepped it up when they needed to. So I'm going to take the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in this game.
I like your pick. I really do, because this team, the Toronto Argonauts, has really been struggling this year. And even though they're at home, I don't think it's going to be enough momentum with everything that you said as far as, wow, how did that – there we go. I don't know what is going on with StreamYard today. How are we going to flop back and forth in the middle of my take? I wasn't even done talking yet. At least let me finish speaking before you flip it around. But when it comes to this game right here, I got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers winning too. They got smacked around last week by the Stampeders and need a way to bounce back. And what an easier way to do it against a team that's struggling like the Toronto Argonauts, who are mainly struggling because they just don't really have an identity on offense. It's really, really tough to watch. It's between them and the Red Blacks. I mean, the Elks are probably more interesting to watch than the Toronto Argonauts at this point. So with that being said, I'm going to side with you on the Blue Bombers. So far, we agree with the Rough Riders and the Blue Bombers winning these next 2 games. And we only have one more to look at now for this weekend.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Uh-oh. There goes Drew. Well, looks like it's a takeover for No Credentials Required and Ryan McCarthy here. I'm not sure what happened to Drew here, but he's coming back.
StreamYard must have punished me for it must have punished me for what I was saying. Okay, it's the only thing I can think of right here and now, because we're right at the last game to preview. And before we do that, we do have to at least acknowledge the fact that there is a team that has a bye this week, and that is the Ottawa Red Blacks, thankfully, because I was getting tired of watching what they were doing.
Ugly.
It was absolutely terrible. They needed a break, and we needed a break.
Where's that graphic? They've been playing what, Drew?
They've been playing.
And appropriately enough, red and black shoes.
Along with just being a total. Absolutely terrible. But with that being said, we do have one realistic game to look at, and that is the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who are on the road. They are 4-2 at this point against the BC Lions, who are 3-4. Do you believe that Bo Levi Mitchell can lead this team to its 5th straight win over the BC Lions on the road?
I think they can. We saw what happened last year when Hamilton was on their roll, going on their late season roll before they kind of hit a wall in October. And they went into Vancouver. Not a lot of people gave them a chance. I called it an upset. I called the upset, and they got the upset. They got the win in overtime in Vancouver at BC Place. And I think it's going to happen again. I won't call it an upset because these two teams are pretty evenly matched. I thought it was a bit of a toss-up myself. But the way that this Hamilton Tiger Cats team has been playing recently, and the way that BC has been but absolutely inconsistent. They beat up on Edmonton the week before, and they get absolutely trounced by Saskatchewan the week after, at home, mind you. So, like I said, I thought it was a toss-up at first, but I'm starting to believe, like you, Drew. I'm starting to believe in Bo Levi Mitchell and this Hamilton Tiger Cats offense and defense and this team all around. So I'm going to take the Tiger Kitties in this one.
I'm going to agree with you on this as well. We're going to pretty much agree with everything on the 2-minute drill at this point, because I can't go against Bo Levi Mitchell, especially with what I said earlier in this program with the game we recapped, for the fact that he was my grand champ of the week. And, just because I believe, just like you do, in this happening. Shout out to old school Bo Dallas character for that one. But for this, Bo Levi Mitchell leads this team to victory. I think he's going to need a little bit more help than just himself. And not just a fact of passing, all-time leaders and moving up on a list is not going to be enough to make him do this. He's going to will this team with his veteran leadership, and they're going to find a way to win this game against the BC Lions team, who has been struggling this year in comparison to how they were in 2024. So for that, I'm going to agree with you. My pick is Bo Levi Mitchell leading this team in Hamilton Tiger Cats get this victory.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And now we go from one to another.
Total Football Talk.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording.
It's that time of the show where we go to the post game to give our final thoughts here for episode 94. And with that, Ryan, let us know what you're thinking here as we round it on out.
Whew. Well, Jets fans, how are we doing today? Yesterday was a whirlwind of a day. I still have whiplash from yesterday. Between a crazy day at work and then checking out what's going on with Jets practice, 5 plays into practice, Justin Fields leaves the field. He's down, goes to the medical tent, gets his shoe taken off. They're looking at the medical staff's looking at his right foot. Then we find out he's being carted to the medical facility for X-rays and for MRI. On day 2 of camp, day 2 of training camp, this happens, and all of us, every Jets fan is getting PTSD based on what happened on the 4th play of the game for the New York Jets on offense in 2023 when Aaron Rodgers went down. We had to endure that season. Not even day 2 of camp. 5 plays in to day 2 of camp, our starting quarterback goes down. And all of us are thinking the worst case scenario because this is how the Jets have given us all PTSD over the last 15 years. Well, thankfully, Coach Aaron Glenn sat us down, and when he started his press conference yesterday, he said right away, look, you all want an update on Justin Fields. Here's the situation. It was a toe injury. And you could just feel the relief coming from Jets fan, myself included. Because if I was going to have to go through another season of expectations of a new quarterback coming in, being trounced, not even before the season began, I was going to lose my mind because that would force new GM Darren Muji to go out and find a veteran replacement when there's not a lot out there that are serviceable. They have to probably make a trade, call the Giants, call the Falcons, see if Kirk Cousins is available, see if either Tommy Cutlets or famous Jameis is available. Thankfully, we didn't have to do that. And I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I talked about the quiet optimism that I have as a New York Jet. And that quiet optimism showed up today after this morning's practice press conference with Aaron Glenn. His answers, when he was asked questions by the media, his answers were clear. His answers were concise. They were straight to the point. Not a whole lot of joking, unlike Robert Saleh, who thought he could get away with the jokes, the nervousness, because of who he had at quarterback and had no game plan whatsoever for this defense. But Aaron Glenn talking about got to get better every day. Got to have everything, and they just moved things along in the practice field very efficiently. They had referees. They had referees at practice because, as he mentioned in his press conference, an undisciplined team does not win games. And it showed last year when the Jets led the league in penalties. Dumb penalties, false start penalties on offense, illegal motions, dumb penalties on defense that led to the Jets dropping games. So, again, I think that quiet confidence, that quiet optimism is starting to become louder, especially because Aaron Glenn has been the voice of reason in this New York Jets room. The players are starting to buy into it. That's why Sauce Gardner signed the contract that he signed, the 4-year extension that he signed. Garrett Wilson, the same thing. They want to build that team around those two players. And I think maybe this is just me. I mean, this is the feeling that I'm getting. But I think if you sat down with Garrett Wilson, you sat down with Sauce Gardner, you sat down with the New York Jets personnel to a man, and they'll say, yeah, we're starting to buy in into what Aaron Glenn has been talking about, and we haven't even hit preseason yet. So the quiet optimism that I've had over the last couple of weeks, it is starting to get louder, and it's starting to get louder. Will this team like the playoffs this year? I don't know. We've seen weirder situations where teams that have finished in last place have come back to win the division the next year. That's happened 25 times since 2002. Will the Jets do it this year? I don't know. They have a tough schedule. Front part of the schedule gets easier in the back end of the schedule. But for right now, as we live and breathe today, that quiet confidence that I have is starting to get louder.
Nice. And a dislocated toe is a lot easier to work with than what you were thinking potentially in that moment. So I know it was a tough situation for you seeing him getting carted off the field with everything.
And he was jogging. He was on the field jogging today.
That's awesome. So he'll be there week 1. Barring anything else, he'll be there week 1. So fingers crossed, because you guys need some stability at the quarterback position and someone with some youth that you could potentially build on for the next 5 to 10 years. And not saying that he'll be the guy, but at least start you off with the right momentum. So I definitely agree with your thoughts here in the post game with that. And as Ryan takes it to his homeristic team for the NFL, I'm going to do the same with mine. As yes, I was a little tough on them for the Snowflake of the Week. And I'm going to be a little tough on them here because there are some things that were said over the past couple of weeks that I really didn't get into last week when we were here last Friday, and some things that really came into fruition over the course of this week. And that's when President Donald J. Trump got involved with saying that the team needs to switch back to the Redskins name. If not, that he was going to potentially block the stadium deal for them to move to RFK. And since then, I've had some mixed feelings. Yes, those of you who've watched this show for quite some time, who have watched my content for quite some time, or just know me personally, know what I have on this arm right here. Okay. I would love to see, whether it's the logo, the name, the way of bringing back the traditional history of this team and the franchise, come back one way or another. I'm willing to meet in the middle and then bring back the logo, because that had nothing to do with what everybody was in an uproar about in 2020. You bring back the logo and you change the name to potentially a tribe name to honor a tribe. I can meet in the middle with that and say that I think that everybody should do that. But for the president to come out and say that you don't get this stadium if you don't change the name back to Redskins, I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, in the context of the way he did it. Since that day, there has been progress with this team in getting this stadium, as they took a big step towards finalizing the deal for the stadium. After weeks of pressure from local and federal leaders, the D.C. Council will soon vote on legislation for a new Washington Commander Stadium in the district. Chairman Phil Mendelssohn announced yesterday. And, there is many things that come about between now and then that we have to pay attention to, because next week on Tuesday, the council committee will hold a public hearing on the legislation on that day. And then the following day on Wednesday, there will be a hearing with the government and team officials before they take a vote. Meaning you're going to have voices from high, powerful people within the government, potentially including even the President of the United States, saying certain things before they go into vote. People are getting confused a little bit by this and thinking that with the news that came out over the course of the past couple of days, that the deal is 100% finalized. They're groundbreaking. They're going to get started, and they're moving right on in 2030. That is not the case. And I want to specifically bring your attention to that. With what the president said, whatever you may think about him, whatever you voted for last year, whatever your political views are, that's not what this show is about. But I'm bringing this up as an example of, he said it. Now we're about to see within the next 7 days how true of a statement that is, because the government has an opportunity, whether it's to voice their opinion or to throw some type of wedge in the deal. Something can happen between now and next Friday, and the deal could potentially be off the table. Within the next 7 days, I don't anticipate hearing that the team is going to revert back to the old moniker, revert back to the old everything, because with us being this close to the season, There's no way with trademarks and there's no way it can happen this close to the season. Despite what you are a fan of when it comes to this franchise, whether you like it or not, the Washington Commanders are here to stay as a franchise for 2025 and potentially for 2026, because when we saw the name revert from the Redskins to the football team and then revert to the Commanders, there was a period of delay in there where it took a couple seasons. It took 18 months minimum to make it happen. So regardless of what happens within the next 7 days, this team is going to be the Washington Commanders for 2025 and more than likely for 2026. If anything happens to where they change it back to the old moniker, they change it back with the old logo with a different name, whatever the case may be, you're going to look at that not taking effect any sooner until 2027 for one, which would still fall into the timeline of before they move into the stadium, move back into RFK. Me personally, at this point, I don't give an expletive, okay? I would love to have the logo back in some type of representation. That would be sweet. And then for the artwork on my arm, it would make it worthwhile considering the thousands of dollars spent on getting this stuff done to begin with many years ago, okay? But when it comes to bringing politics into the sport of professional football, I did not agree with it. And I think that somewhere, some way, somehow, said individual who said that might be feeling some type of way about the fact that back in the 1980s, he didn't get an NFL team. Okay. I think there's still a sting in there somewhere potentially, but I digress. The good news is that we're on a positive front with moving back to RFK, having a state-of-the-art stadium to where you don't have leaky poopy water all over the fans like you did at FedEx Field. Nobody wants to spend their hard-earned money and get poopy water on their face. No, because then you get red. What is it when you get in your eye, when you rub your eye? What is
Pink
that?
eye.
Pink eye. Yes. Okay. Nobody wants to go to FedEx and get poopy water on their face and get pink eye. So you got to get this deal done, regardless of what the team's called. Some people are on board with it. I'm necessarily not, but that's for another episode and for another time. But for me right now, I wanted to bring up the progress of the stadium deal because there's been some discussions out there that the deal is done and they're getting ready to break. No, there's still a process, and they have to get this done by August 1st because then the committee is on break for the next 6 weeks until mid-September, and that's going to be the soonest that you'll be able to talk about it again. And we're going to be into the NFL season by then. So by that point, certain things are going to be on the back burner, and this could potentially be it. If the Commanders are going to move into that stadium by 2030 to start that season, whether it's the Commanders, the Redskins, the Chippewas, whatever their name is, you got to get the deal done by next Friday, and the eyes are looming big on what's going on, not just with this move there in the Capitol, but with other moves that affect the entirety of the United States. This one just so happens to affect this franchise, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things go for my beloved team, formerly known as the Redskins.
Well said. Well said. I can't speak for the Commanders fan base, but you're the voice. So no, I'm hoping for your sake you guys get a deal, but more so I would love to see my New York Jets finally get their own stadium because they've never had one.
It's time. It's time you guys get a freaking stadium. It's about
pony up, Woody.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah.
I believe that this individual is commenting from your channel there, Ryan.
He is.
We must bring him into the fan chats before we send this on home. Jets fans' hope is like an eternal flame. It's small, but will never be extinguished.
It's also like going to a restaurant and 93% of the time you get food poisoning, but you keep going back.
Because it just tastes so damn good.
So good.
He had a big owie on his big piggy.
No, it was his second toe, not his big toe.
His second piggy.
It hurts. It's like a
big pig.
Yeah.
Little piggy. All right. Now the family wants the logo back. Bring it back. Yes, please. Please.
Yeah. The family, you're referring to, I believe David's referring to the family of the man who created said logo.
Yes, because it was created in the early 70s.
Yes.
Can you buy the rights to the logo? I believe the franchise still owns the rights to the logo. And they would be stupid if they didn't. And probably to keep it on the back burner just in case people out there, and mainly the snowflakes who started this whole thing, calmed down enough to where we could get the name back, or at least the logo back with a name that people won't cry about so much. He says, I want pink eye.
Scott Bale can give it to you.
Heavens no.
I'm not sure what he was referring to in that, but probably Donald Trump owning a football team, NFL team. Yeah, because he tried to challenge the NFL back in the day because they wanted to move the USFL to spring, and he actually wound up winning that lawsuit, but the USFL only earned $3.76.
You got $1.
You got $3.76.
And move the Giants to
$3. Fun fact: Kingston was the original capital of New York. But I don't know. You have to pry it out of New Jersey's hands first. You have to pry the Jets and the Giants out of New Jersey's hands first. Gotta find a way. I mean, the Jets would have their own stadium in Midtown Manhattan right now if it weren't for James Dolan. That's why you'll never see me set foot in Madison Square Garden. You'll never see me root for the Knicks. You'll never see me root for the Rangers.
And lastly, he says, dollar makes you holler.
Listen, I don't know what hollering you do in your time, Dave, but what you do in your bedroom is your business.
Sounds like he just took the...
I hope your kids are not watching, Dave.
Shout out to Dave for coming on in the chat and bringing us some great content here towards the end. Shout out to Sick Diggy and Corey Mann for coming on in the chat, helping us out earlier within the show. We will be back next Friday, 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time with episode 95. But until then, we have to leave you with one semi-badass outro and this. In life, just like in football, keep your head up and remember, you got to play until the whistle blows. And as always, from Ryan, myself, and everybody else here to you and yours, please stay safe out here in these streets. You don't have to go home, but you got to get yourself on up out of here. See you next